So welcome everyone to the panel again. Today it's just Landon and me, Landon and myself. So today we're going to touch on a few things, but before we do that, I keep forgetting to do this. We are going to be doing a giveaway. So we have a few items to give away each month on the panel. How this is going to work is you comment below any questions that you want us to, any questions or topics, I should say, that you want us to discuss on the panel. Right, go to YouTube, write them in the comment section. If your topic or question gets picked on the panel and we talk about it, you're going to be entered in a monthly prize. This month we're giving away a Vortex bino harness. We also have a few other bino harnesses we're giving away. Yep. A set of AK Aku boots we're giving away. We have a black gold sight. We're going to have some optics, and we're going to be working to a big yearly prize of maybe a backpack or something. We're still working out that detail, but we got a lot of time to figure it out because we're only in May and we got a few months. So today's question: best time to hunt elk, last light versus first light. Who has bigger mule deer, BC or Saskatchewan? 3 versus 4 veins for hunting. Best way to clean a bear skull. And we're going to leave the fourth one open. We are live here. So hopefully we have somebody that wants us to talk about something or they want to chime in. Mm-hmm. Get it in right now. But best time to hunt elk. Last light, first light. Lan, I'm going to let you start this one.
Oh, man. that is a tough one. I feel like I would have to say last light.
Really?
Yep. And just from a basis of, so typically in my experience when they go into the timber and stuff, it is extremely hard to get in on the herd once they disappear into there. I mean, it is absolutely feasible, but if you're trying to work your way right into the herd, it can be tough unless you're just playing with the surrounding satellites and stuff like that. So I would say why that leads me to the evening is that I can have that bull come out earlier and make a game plan, whereas when they're out of the timber in the morning, when daylight breaks, I have to make my play, and I have a very short window to do it in a different aspect, I guess. I have a general idea in the evening. They're coming out and they're not disappearing back in, and I can kind of do a loop on them and get my wind proper and just play it more methodically in that way. So, but that's a tough question because both can be good. It just depends on the day.
I feel that you have to utilize, like, if I was going to hunt if you said you could only hunt mornings or evenings, I'm going to hunt mornings. But I feel that all my morning success has been due to late evening scouting. Yeah. And when I say late evening scouting, I don't mean like actual scouting. I mean going out at last light, listening for those bugles, getting a direction. And then from there, knowing where to go early in the morning. At least then I have a direction. Now, they're not going to be in the same spot because elk habits are not the same as, their habits. They do different things in the evening compared to what they do in the morning. Now, that being said, the thing that I have learned over the years, and I've always seemed to kill elk this way, is I'll go out when it's dark. I'll go out not when it's dark, but I'll be out there. I'm not going to do any calling. I will not do any calling right away. I'm going to go out and I'm just going to find a high ridge and I'm going to listen. And usually around when that sun finally starts to crest over the hillside and you're getting that perfect little, that little ambient light coming in through the trees It's dark. It's too dark to see through the trees now. You'll start hearing those bulls rip off. Now, if I know there's elk in there and they're not ripping off, I'm gonna throw out a location bugle. Just one, and I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen for about 15 or 20 minutes.
Yep.
If I don't hear anything, I'm gonna walk the ridge about 50 meters, and I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'm just gonna stop, and I'm gonna listen, and then I'm gonna call, and then I'm gonna keep doing that same thing until I get a bugle. If I get a bugle, I'm gonna pinpoint where it was. I'm gonna go on my phone, try to make an accurate, calculated, like guesstimate where that bugle was, and then I'm gonna go back to camp or go home depending on where I'm hunting, and then I'm gonna break that down. I'm gonna look and be like, okay, well, I heard that here. It's night. There's water here, and then I'm kind of gonna formulate a game plan for the morning, and then I'm gonna go to where I think they are. I'm not going to go to where I heard that bugle. There's no point in me being up on that ridge, because the only reason I went way up on that ridge was so I can get a vocalization. I can get sound of exactly where those calls were coming from, like the general idea. Like I said, they're not going to be in the same spot they were just in, but there's elk in there. There's a bull in there. So then from there, that's my game plan. If there's water, I know they're going to be at water very early in the morning. They're going to be at water so early, it's going to be too early for me to kill them.
Yeah.
By the time I get enough light to kill them, they are going to be already working their way into their bedding area. So I'm going to figure out where their bedding area is, and I'm going to try to do the best guess I can and get into that area.
Yeah.
That is why I feel, that's why I agree with you. This is a hard question, because if I didn't have that, if I don't have the ability to do that, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't have that ability. Sometimes I'll come down, it'll be dark. I'll get in there like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'll just walk ridge lines. And I'm going to walk a valley, and I'm going to stop and listen, and I'm going to walk another 200 yards, and I'm going to listen. And I'm going to listen for elk sounds. Once I find an elk sound, then I'll start to work my way into the dark and try to get as close as I can. Now, when I'm moving, I'm going very quietly. I'm going very methodically. I'm making sure that when I go in there, and number one, I don't spook anything out of there. Yeah, still hunting almost exactly. Except I'm not still hunting with my binoculars because I can't see anything. I'm still hunting with my ears. I'm listening for sounds. I'm listening for elk sounds, right? I'm trying to stay as high as I can for as long as I can, because the higher you get, the more sound you're going to hear. Once you get down too low, you're going to be below the sound. And if you get in too thick, the sound's going to be muffled. So I always find utilize those roads. And also, if you can utilize a road or an old trail, those are going to be the quietest when walking. So I always try to utilize those. But yeah, that is a tough question, because without the last light, I don't think I would have killed as many bulls as I have in the mornings.
Yeah, see, I kind of use it in the same regard, except for that midday when they go to bed. I'm using my morning intel, because typically I don't have enough time to make that stalk in with the amount of ground that I have to cover with exposure.
Line, I'm going to cut you off.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly peaceful combat vet. Love you, buddy. Good to see you. Good to hear from you this morning. Hey, do me a favor, dude. I'm go on my Instagram, Kevin Altoy, and chat me up. We got a hat and a t-shirt for you.
Bingo. Figure out where to send it.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't typically, with the amount of exposure that I'd have in those open areas, I wait until they go back to bedding, so I can't like make a rapid movement in that morning when they're working their way back to bedding. So similar to you, I kind of go and make that play during the day, because we don't really have like a water regimen that they go on, because there's like pockets of water all over the place in the forest. So working that edge and then making that play, utilizing that information from the morning, that's what I work in the evening.
Yeah. I feel that Saskatchewan and British Columbia, well, like you were out here turkey hunting, and exactly where we were turkey hunting, I've killed elk in those areas. And so as you now that you've been out here, you can see what I'm talking about. Like you have a lot of elevation changes
Yeah.
quickly. It's a lot of steep cliffs. Like there is some flat spots, don't get me wrong, but there is a lot of drainages, there's a lot of high elevation, low elevation. And if you figure out a way to utilize those effectively, you can really hone in on where the elk are. And they seem to do the same thing because it is so dry here. They need that water, and there's limited water sources. That's the nice thing about hunting an arid, dry place is you can really lock in on the only water sources available for the elk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Biggest mule deer, British Columbia or Saskatchewan? I feel like this is a double-edged question. It's either like I feel like what there has been historically to what there is now. Now, when it comes to biggest mule deer ever taken, I think you have to give that crown to British Columbia because there was a 339-inch mule deer taken in where I currently live. It was scored in 1955. 47 points, 24 on the right side, 23 on the left. It is the second biggest non-typical of all time. Shot right here where I'm currently, not where I'm currently sitting, but in the same area that I am in the Okanagan Valley. Very big mule deer. Now, we have, Landon, you've been here.
Yep.
What do you think this place would look like 200 years ago for elk and mule deer?
Man, it's it's funny that you mentioned that because when I was out there, we actually talked about that when we were cruising through some of those like suburban areas that are just giant, gorgeous valleys and basins that connect to lakes and stuff like that. I just picture giant mule deer and giant elk just cruising everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I picture, because we have just the nature of this place, you're going to get those soft rolling hills, and you have openings, you have treed areas, you have fresh water. I picture coming in here 300 years ago, and like, you know that movie, do you remember that movie Jurassic Park, when they overlook the valley and then you just see like all these herds of like dinosaurs walking around?
Yeah.
I feel like you could just get to the top of Knox Mountain, look down, and you just see like massive herds of elk, big pockets of mule deer, and just like 400-inch mule deer or 400-inch elk, 200-inch mule deer, just rolling around all over. That being said, I feel due to resource extraction in this province and just how much the population has grown, I feel like if I was going to say now, I'd give that big mule deer to Saskatchewan. Yes, Saskatchewan does have a harder winter, but it just seems to have bigger mule deer bucks out there.
Yeah. Man, it's a tough one because you could go and find giants in both places, right? If that's what you hone in on. I feel like in Saskatchewan they are easier to find.
That's a very good point because there very well could be a lot of giant mule deer in British Columbia that nobody ever sees. Because every once in a while, every few years, you get like this 230 or 240-inch mule deer buck that gets taken.
Yeah.
And you're like, where the hell was that thing? But because it is so dense and so thick in a lot of these areas and so vast, a lot of these mule deer you just might never know about. They just die.
Well, and here, since the vast majority of the mule deer population is in the lower third of the province, man, there is not a lot of property where you have, say, 3 miles square where there isn't a road. So it gives a lot more opportunity for these big, 250, 260 bucks to slip up and be seen.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. You are seeing that I could be thinking that because you see a lot more bucks just because it is more open and they get caught in the open. They get exposed. Where in BC, if they're out running around, they're going to be so far in the backcountry or, just in that thick timber, you're not going to see them. So that is a good point. But historically, like I said, going after the records, the biggest mule deer, you got to give the crown to BC on that one. Alberta, we'll have to get them in the mix. Maybe we'll do like a 1v1 showdown.
We could. I think Saskatchewan's biggest is a measly 293 and 6/8. So measly.
Yeah.
I can't believe the size of these deer. Like that is just
Did you look at that one, 339? I mean, that is just
a
gnarly.
339-inch deer.
Yeah. Just for hold on a sec. There is the biggest non-typical, the Broder buck. Ed Broder shot his record-setting buck while hunting near Edmonton, Alberta in the fall of 1926. According to Boone and Crockett, he drove a Model T Ford, blah, 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 blah. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Where's the size of this thing?
Oh,
It doesn't say the size.
I got it here.
Why does it not say the size?
355 and 2/8 for this monster.
Oh, right there. Yeah, it is. I just can't read. 355 and 2/8 rack. That is big. And that was shot in Alberta. So I guess Alberta, they take the title. If we want to get to the non-typical stuff, you got to go down south to get the records down there. But anyway, 3 versus 4 veins for hunting. Great question. I love this. I have different opinions because if you're shooting the saber vein, I'm going 3. If I'm shooting an A hybrid, I'm going 4. And now listen, this is kind of interesting. I didn't find any difference in steering with 3 or 4 hybrid vanes and a mechanical. It's important to remember mechanical broadhead. I did not find any difference. But what is different, the 4 vane is noticeably quieter than the 3 vane.
Interesting. Just creates more of a tunnel sort of thing, if you will.
Well, more vanes are going to be quieter. Obviously, you get less slapping, less wind in between each vane, less slapping of the wind. Now, 3 versus 4 vanes for shooting a broadhead in wind. I did a testing of this. It's actually on the YouTube channel. The saber vanes held up extremely well in wind with 3 vanes. Now, those saber vanes are really good. The issue I have is installation and they're just hard to find in Canada. And I just hate bugging Kyle all the time for new vanes. He has no problem shipping vanes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. When I need vanes, I need them. I get into a mood and be like, I got to refletch a few arrows. I'm just going to strip all my arrows and I'm going to refletch them all. Right? Because they go in the target, they get kind of muffed up and they hit each other. They get a little scrape.
Yep.
So I just do them all at the same time.
I would say, because I have noticed that same thing for you as you mentioned, and a 3 in comparison to a 4 from a side profile view as that arrow is flying. With a 4, you can always see 2 vanes, right, as it rotates. So it's always going to be getting that surface area from the side in comparison to a 3 vane. As it's rotating, you're going to get gaps where your vane surface area isn't the same, if I'm explaining that well enough. From a side view, you're always going to see a vane with a 4, a 3, less frequent. So that, I feel, in your video on the YouTube channel, how the 3 vane is less impacted, I could see that.
I think the shape of those saber vanes are a lot better just with how much research Kyle had put into that for just steering in wind, like high wind. I think just the way he built those vanes off of aerodynamic, like work that's already done by engineers and aerodynamic, what do you call it? Aerodynamic research?
Fluid stuff, very intelligent.
Yeah, for like the fighter planes. That's what he built them off
Yeah.
of. So, I mean, he did a lot of wind tunnel studies. They are very effective. They are a very good vein. They're a little louder, I found, but some guys are running 4 on those as well. So, interesting. I think if I was going to do, like, if I'm running a 26, like a hybrid 26, I'm putting four veins on.
Mm-hmm.
I do a left helical, and with the saber veins, I do 3, and I do a right no helical, just right offset.
Right.
2.5 degree offset.
Really? Interesting. Yeah. So for myself, last year I ran 3 saber veins, left helical, 2.5 degree offset. But this year I've been dabbling with the saber minis in a 4-fletch configuration with a little less helical.
I have a 4 flat. So on my target arrows, I have 4 minis, and they work great. Do they work any better than 3 hybrids? Well, my score didn't get any better.
Yeah.
They didn't solve my 30x issue I have. But right now, I haven't been shooting very much, so I'd be happy with a 300, which I probably wouldn't shoot right now.
Yeah. I feel
Buy in bulk like I do, Kevin. That's a good point. I should. And I actually, Kyle did send me a whole bunch, and I sent a whole bunch to everybody else.
Yeah. Just go buy lots. Canada,
So you're welcome.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you. But yes, that is what I'm currently dabbling with, and seeing how my broadhead flight behaves with 4 in comparison to 3 out at my effective hunting distance.
If I was running a fixed blade broadhead, I would run 4 AAE hybrids with right, not left. Offset.
Okay.
Right
Not getting
helical.
too off point. Why the change in rotation direction?
Because if you've ever noticed how much more your broadhead or your field tip unscrews in flight from left to right.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can put a little bit of glue or put some wax on there, but
yeah, that's the only reason.
that's the only reason. Now, as the arrow is flying through the air, it's not a field point. It does have wind drag on different points of the broadhead. If that's unscrewing, the direction the wind will be flowing around your arrow is going to change throughout flight. Am I an accurate enough shooter to notice that? No. But I mean, if your broadhead unscrews from your arrow a little bit and then it has impact with an animal, it's not going to be as strong as it is if it was screwed in all the way tight. But like I said, you could put a little bit of wax or a small dab of glue on there. Just really hard to get. If you do use glue, it's very hard to get it off. And wax doesn't last very long. Best way to clean a bear skull.
I've dabbled in a few different ways.
Hold your bear skull up.
Which one?
The big one.
The big one. So, for anyone watching, this guy was beetled. So, in beetling, you just see if I can get that in focus. Essentially, he goes and sits in the beetles for I don't know how many days. I think it was a little over a month for that one, and then rinsed in peroxide. And then I have one that was just boiled here as well, which is here. So this was,
Dude, that's a big bear, and that looks tiny compared to that 22-inch skull you just held up.
yeah, this guy, he's just under 21, so he's not a dink.
No, like that's a 20-inch bear, 20-plus inch bear. But compared to that other bear, it looks tiny. So
Yeah.
if you're listening, go to the YouTube channel and watch. Hold it. Can you hold those up side by side?
Yeah,
We're getting completely off topic here,
completely off topic.
but we are back up a little bit. Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah, that's huge.
I don't
Yeah.
want to drop them either, but I'm doing a poor job holding these guys. My apologies.
Yeah, I mean you could do better, but that's fine.
But back to the question at hand. I don't know. This one was boiled, pressure washed, and then peroxided.
And a lot cheaper. I think if you want to save some money, the best thing you could do is get all the flesh off right away. Pull the eyeballs out. Cut as much meat off the bone as you can. And if you're going to do it yourself, try to do it sooner than later, because what happens is that the flesh will start to rot on the skull, and it's a lot harder to get it to turn white, especially the brain material inside the skull. Eventually it will turn white. I mean, if you want to bleach something, a really good way to do it is just leave it out in the sun. Obviously, don't leave it out too long, because it will start to basically erode the bone. It'll just flake apart to nothing. But so if I'm going to do it myself, I'm going to cut as much of that meat away as I can. Try really hard to not like stab and cut the skull. If I do cut the skull, what I do is I take a little bit of emery cloth, and then I'll just sand that spot off after it's clean, and then just wash it off. Just seems to get those nicks out. And then what I do is I boil it. I boil it with some OxyClean, just a light boil. I get the water to boil, then I turn the heat way down, and then I will use OxyClean, and I'll just let it basically sit in that hot water for half a day. I usually do it and then come home from work, and then what I'll do is I'll just start pulling it all off with my hands. Put some gloves on if you don't like the stink, because it will get on your hands, and then I'll just start ripping it all off. I'm not going to I do pressure wash the skull, but when you're pressure washing a bear skull, because the teeth and the nose parts are so fragile, I find the teeth always go shooting out, or or they just come disconnected from the jawbone.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're never able to find those teeth again. So that's one important thing to remember. So the less pressure washing I have to do, the better. And then when I do pressure wash it, I make sure I use a very easy, gentle tip. I don't use that the hard one. And once that's done, I let it dry. I'll let it completely dry. Put all the teeth in, and I'll let it dry probably for a week or two. I'll let it dry right out. And then what I do is I get some hair dye, some peroxide, and that hair bleaching stuff. It comes in a powder form and a chemical, and I'll put links up to everything in the description. And then you mix those two together, and then I'll paste it on really thick, and then I'll throw a bag over it, and I'll sit it in there for a day or two, and then I pull the bag off, and then I just wash in cold water, and then any teeth that don't seem to stick, I'll just put a little bit of clear glue on there and just pop them in. That's the way I do it if I'm cleaning it myself. I prefer to just pay the $150 and get it beetled.
Yeah. In my experience, the best job is beetling. It is a bit more money. But I mean,
the end job is always going to be nicer when you get it beetled. When you boil it, you sometimes get pitting on your animal. If you're going to take it to a guy to do a Euromount and he has beetles, make sure you specifically tell him to not boil your skull.
Yeah.
And cut as much of the flesh off as possible. Get all that stuff out. Cut the eyeballs out. Make sure you get all the hair off, especially like if you're doing a deer or an elk, especially, those cuticles around the antler. Make sure you get all that stuff off. Cut it off. Take a bit of time. Take it in there. Get that skin material from the hide that's still attached. Get all that off. Try to cut as much off as you can, and that'll just save him a bit of work.
Yeah, and if you are taking it to a taxidermist, not doing a DIY method, just talk to your taxidermist about it, because lots of taxidermists actually prefer you to just do a base skinning and they'll trim the rest because they don't want you scarring or breaking something in the jaw or stuff like that. So just, talk to your taxidermist, see what they want. If it's a bonus for them and they don't really care, then do that extra work. If not, yeah, communication.
Yeah. For me, yeah, that's always the best way to work. Like I said, if it's not a, if it's not a 6-point elk or not a 20+ inch bear, most likely I'm just going to do it myself. But if it's one of those, if it's an elk or big mule deer, well, I mean, most of my elk, that's not true. I've dialed down on the shoulder mounts just because of how crazy expensive they've gotten. So
Yeah.
I am doing a lot more Euro mounts, but I'm getting those beetled. Okay, I want to hit this one question here. I'm going to put up on the board. I've been out turkey hunting. I can't seem to find any gobblers, any pointers. Okay, this is a little interesting. To answer your question, you have to know if there's turkeys in the area you're hunting. Now, right now, if you find a hen, you're going to find some jakes or some toms ripping around. We never found any toms this year. We only found jakes, but we found a lot of jakes. I mean,
A lot of jakes.
a lot of jakes. Now, if you're hunting in an area and you're not sure if there's any turkeys in it, I think you have to go and just start walking around and just start looking for signs. You're going to find areas that are scratched up. And what that is turkeys are rooting around along stumps and stuff that are laying down and they're pulling the bugs out of there. Also, look for areas where there's any snow. Look for tracks, especially in open fields. Turkeys do like the open fields. They like eating the bugs and stuff off the grass. So look for muddy areas around there and look for tracks. If you find turkey tracks in the mud, you're going to know that there's turkeys there. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I made early on when I was turkey hunting is going to an area and calling and not getting any calling back and leaving the area completely when there was most likely turkeys in there. So my son and I were out yesterday, actually. We were out yesterday morning, and we went out in the dark. First thing in the morning, we set up. We didn't do any calling, and it got to a certain point when you could hear distant gobbles going off in the background. So our play was, I did a light hen call, and then I put my box call down on the ground, just to let those turkeys know that we were over here. And I didn't overcall. One of the things I have a tendency to do is overcall, especially with a mouth call. Mouth call, I get too aggressive. I start pushing too much air pressure, and it just becomes unnatural. Now, if you've ever heard a hen actually call, they call very lightly. Landon, you got to witness this. We were out hunting, and we had a hen sitting there right in front of us, 20, 30 yards, and you can actually see her tone, how light it is, right? It's not loud. It's very subtle. And she's very soft. She's very gentle. You think of how aggressive we can get with our calling. It's too aggressive. So that's why I like the box call. I'll make some calls, and I'll put it down on the ground, and then I just wait. And they're still in their roost when they're calling. So if you hear them calling a lot specifically, most likely they're going to be in their roost. When they get on the ground, sometimes they don't call. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they call when they get closer, but a lot of the times what they're doing is they're working their way to you. So then we would just call again, and I put my box call. And I'm calling about every 15 minutes. Just light calls, soft calls. And then they get to the ground, they start getting closer, then they start hitting the call. Right? They start responding to the call.
Yeah.
Right? And then they got hung up. So when they get hung up, I'm a little bit more aggressive with my call. I do a little bit louder and a few more of them, just to know, like, hey, I'm over here. I'm not moving. Come get me. If you want me, come get me. Right? And you do that. We didn't hear nothing for almost an hour. And then right away, we start seeing a black spot on just all of a sudden appear. and then here comes the turkey. It sees the decoy. It comes running in. It gets shot. So now we go to another area. This is now where we go to this other area. We're about 8 o'clock in the morning. Now we go out and I start doing some calls. I don't hear any sound. So we get up higher on the ridge. I do some calls. We don't hear anything back. We keep working the ridge, doing some calls, not getting anything back. We go down the valley, up the other side, doing some calls. We don't get anything back. We keep going, do some calls, and we're walking. All of a sudden, we get a call off behind us. Now, we get a call from behind us where we already were. So now we do a 180 and we start going back, right? We get up and I start doing some calls, nothing. They're gone silent. But what's happening is they're assessing the situation. They're figuring out where I am and what I am and how likely I am what they want to get, because these birds, by now, hunting season has been open. They're exposed to a lot of elements that most likely have already been shot at. I specifically know the two birds that came into my calls. There was 3. Landen killed one of them. I killed, and this is the same group of turkeys that we had hunted weeks before. And so we start working our way to the ridge. They're on the other side of the ridge, and we set up an area. Their calls are getting closer, so we stage up. Wyatt's there. We got a decoy. Wyatt's behind me. I'm set up. And they come in to about 200 yards, and they're hung up. And they won't come any further. So after about 20 minutes, I said, okay, Wyatt, you stay here. I'm going for it. So I snuck in. I got right into about 20, 25 yards of those things, and I shot one.
Perfect.
But the whole point is, like, you can't find the question is, you've been out turkey hunting and you can't find any gobblers. Like I said, number one, you have to first know that there's turkey there. So first learn to use sign. If you're in an area, put out a trail camera, get some cracked corn and throw some cracked corn out in front of the trail camera. The birds will find that. That is a great indication whether there's birds there if you get them on trail camera. Look for areas that have water. The turkeys, they like water. They'll go to areas that have water in the morning. Look for sign around there. You don't necessarily aren't looking for the turkey in the watering hole. You're looking just for fresh tracks in those areas. So number one, make sure there's gobblers there so that you can actually shoot them. And then number two is just, you have to be patient. As Landon can attest to, turkey hunting will drive you absolutely bonkers. You have to be patient, and you have to just, it's tough, man, because you just don't know, and you don't want to waste a lot of time on one area. So if you're hunting in an area and you're making a lot of calls and you're not getting anything back, I would stay there for at least, if you're by yourself, at least 2 hours, because sometimes it takes a long time for those turkeys to come back. Here's a caveat to that. I have an area set up. It's on private land. We have a blind there. We have a trail camera there. We've done calling sequences in the morning. Nothing's come in after 2-3 hours. You check the trail camera, 6 hours later, a turkey came into your calls sometime during the day just to check out the area, just to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
So you never know. I guess to answer that question is just don't quit. Number one, make sure there's turkeys there. And then number two, just don't quit. It's frustrating. You're going to figure it out. Figure out the calling. I think the calling is huge. Cadence, tone, I think, are the biggest things in turkey hunting. What's your thoughts, Lana?
Well, since I don't have a vast array of turkey hunting knowledge, it's been with you solely. And I would say, like any animal, establish that they're there. You can run hills till you're blue in the face chasing elk to turkey. If they're not in the area, they're not there. If you can establish they're there, I think just persistence, man, and just, not giving up and working different methods and covering ground and, doing that night work, I think, is a huge, huge thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. The best time to go out and actually get a feel if there's turkeys in there, get a crow call and just go in the dark and just start walking logging roads, and then just go out, blow 2 crow calls, wait, listen, move 50 to 100 yards down the road. do it again. Keep walking, do it again. One other thing I really like to do is if you see or you hear a crow calling, stop instantly and just listen. Same with an owl. If you hear an owl off in the background going whoo whoo, that's my owl call. It's pretty good.
What was that?
Yeah. Whoo whoo. Yeah. Listen. Sometimes they fire off.
Yep.
I mean, we were out hunting. We shut the door, we slammed the door, and a turkey gobbles on the other side of the ridge.
Yeah. Close.
Right.
I can't remember who closed the door. It was like not super loud either. It was just like a skosh aggressive than a typical hunting situation. And yeah, sure as heck, down in the bottom of the valley.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's wild. I think the biggest thing is once you know there's turkeys in the area, just spend time in the area. One other tip I'll give you, the one thing I've learned, when they roost, they always like a little bit of elevation. And turkeys are always more inclined to come to you if they have to work up than down, especially in the evening. The evening is very hard to get a turkey to come back into you. The morning, no problem. So typically my strategy has always been not very, unless it's like 3 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, anything after like 5, 6 o'clock, it's all just about scouting. It's very similar to elk hunting where I'm going out and I'm just listening to finding out a good spot where I'm going to go hunt turkeys in the morning.
Gotcha. Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Good episode. Thanks everyone again for tuning into these. Please, if you're listening on audio podcast, hit that subscribe, hit that follow button. We really appreciate it. These are going up on the Hunt Source Radio podcast. We do have these episodes on Spotify, on iTunes, anywhere you're listening to your podcast. It's just the Hunt Panel. So if you could please go over there, click that subscribe, click that auto download, because we are going to be taking these off the Hunt Source Radio. The Hunt Source Radio is just going to be more of the long form podcasts. So if you could go over there, like and subscribe to that. Everything is available on YouTube, as you know it. And please, if you want to get into the giveaways, put your comments in the comments section. Let us know any questions, any topics you want us to discuss. If it gets picked, you're going to get a chance to win a sweet prize. And those prizes are going off on the 20th of every month. So May 20th, we're going to be picking a winner. So get your questions in.
And subscribe.
Comment. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your support, guys. Love you. Till the next one.